From candy packaged with toxic lead to gummy bears that cause horrible trips to the toilet, here are 10 banned candies that can kill. Number 10. Lucas Candies. Everyone loves some delicious Mexican candy, but nobody likes their candy chocked full of lead. Back in 2004, according to Business Wire, 4 of the famous Lucas candies, including Lucas Limon, Lucas Limon con Chile, Lucas Acidito, and Super Lucas seasoned treats, were discontinued by the company due to tests that revealed a startling amount of lead content. For those of you who don't remember, the Lucas candies were a lot like pixie sticks. They were essentially small containers filled with a powdery seasoning product that you could sprinkle on foods or other candies or directly into your mouth. Even before all the business about lead inside of the candies came to light, there were disturbing reports of children actually snorting the candy powder. By the time testing revealed dangerously high levels of toxic lead, this candy was pretty much bound for the discontinued pile anyway. And while the candy was never technically banned, I imagine it would have been pretty quickly. Lucas did the right thing and withdrew all 4 of their candy seasonings before it could come to that. Keep in mind that paint is still the #1 cause of lead poisoning in the United States. Imagine if millions of children were still ingesting lead-filled candy on a daily basis. Lead can be detrimental to your brain and to your brain functions, and can even cause seizures and ultimately death. There's a reason lead is banned from almost everything. It should definitely not be in candy. Number 9. Toxic Waste Nuclear Sludge Chew Bars. Who would have ever guessed that a candy with a name like Toxic Waste Nuclear Sludge Chew Bars would actually be deadly? Well, in 2011, the Food and Drug Administration announced that the Nuclear Sludge Chew Bars, imported from Pakistan, were indeed horribly dangerous for children. Why, you ask? It would appear these toxic waste candy bars were filled with lead. They were absolutely contaminated, although not with toxic waste, which would have been more fitting. The result of eating too many of these candies could have led to problems with brain functions and even death if the levels of lead were high enough. Luckily, these toxic candy bars are no longer in production. And I should hope not, since they have double the amount of lead that they should have. However, if you still have a hankering for toxic waste, the brand continues to sell chewing gum and lozenges. This is not the first time food imported from a country like Pakistan, which has unsettlingly poor safety standards, has made it to American shelves. Other things have been found, like pet food, toothpaste, and other edible products. It might be worth checking the label the next time you're buying an unknown brand of anything, especially if you plan to consume it. It may just be deadly. And now for number 8, but first, let us know if you've seen any of these candies in the comments below, and be sure to hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Number 8. Candy cigarettes. Candy cigarettes were first introduced to Americans back in the early 1930s, way before smoking was ever considered dangerous or taboo. Back in those days, almost everybody smoked, and there was still a massive debate whether cigarettes caused any kind of harm to the body. And so, of course, nobody thought it was a big deal when their children's candy came in king-sized cigarette packs with rip-off cigarette brand names like Marlboro or Vicio on the fronts. In fact, these packages looked staggeringly like a real pack of smokes. Finally, in the 1960s, things started to go downhill for candy cigarettes. Parents realized that having their children pretending to smoke with their candy was a really good way to encourage them to start smoking real cigarettes. And everybody knew by then that half of all lifetime smokers will eventually die from smoking-related issues like emphysema or lung cancer. In the 21st century, these candies are practically banned from existence. Norway, Finland, and even Saudi Arabia have 100% banned the sale of candy cigarettes. However, they're still available in the US. The word cigarette may have been removed from the package, and the packages may have been manipulated to no longer look like cigarette boxes, but they still have a stigma attached, and that will never leave. While eating these candies is not inherently dangerous, encouraging an entire generation of children to smoke cigarettes certainly is. Number 7. Kinder Surprise Eggs. This is perhaps the most shocking ban on the list, as these delicious and fun chocolate snacks were a staple of all of our childhoods. We all know what a Kinder Surprise egg is. It's a soft milk chocolate egg that is hollow on the inside and contains a small toy that children can put together after they've eaten through the egg's shell. But no matter how much fun these eggs may be, they are officially banned in the United States. And it's not even because of what you think. Sure, the toy inside of the Kinder Surprise could be a choking hazard if your child manages to cram the toy into their gullet and they choke on it, but in fact they're considered too large by most regulations to be a choking hazard. So while some Kinder Surprise can be deadly, it can be deadly in the same way eating a rock is deadly. The real reason these treats are banned is because of a bizarre regulation that says any non-nutritive object embedded inside of a food is totally illegal. These awesome snacks are not allowed to be sold in the United States. According to Metro News, over 60,000 of these chocolate eggs were seized in 2011 by U.S. Customs as they were packed full of illegal substances. Authorities claim these eggs are a danger to children everywhere, so you'll have to fly overseas if you want to get your hands on one of those. Number 6. Haribo Sugar-Free Gummy Bears. This story is recent enough that you may have heard about it, experienced it, or known someone who has suffered the wrath of the sugar-free gummy bear. While cutting sugar out of your diet is definitely a good idea, and eating sugar-free gummy bears feels like a solid way to eat candy without having sugar, a devastating night of unbearable stomach pain and vengeful diarrhea does not seem worth it at all. And yet, that is what happened when people began buying Haribo sugar-free gummy bears from Amazon. Supposedly, it only took somewhere between 15 and 20 gummy bears to completely ruin a person's night. That's hardly more than a handful of bears. The last thing I want on Halloween is to be forced to run home halfway through the night because sugar-free gummy bears have turned my guts inside out. Fortunately, the stories of people's immense suffering due to these candy bears quickly went viral, and the company immediately stopped selling the candy product. However, you can still find the Amazon reviews of people complaining about the nasty side effects that just a single clump of these adorable bears had on them. While they might not outright kill you, they could definitely kill your toilet. Number 5. HIPPY SIPPY Candies. To ever think that HIPPY SIPPY was ever a popular candy for children in these United States of America is utterly shocking. This could have only happened in the late 1960s with the prevailing hippie culture. If you don't know what the candy is, let me break it down for you. HIPPY SIPPY comes in an innocent enough container that almost looks like a thin sippy cup. But take a closer look and you'll see a distinct resemblance between the packaging and a heroin needle. That's right, these children's candies came packaged in a fake syringe. It was meant to be a nod to the drug-using hippies of the day. Even the candy inside of it, multicolored little pill-shaped candies, were supposed to be the widely popular uppers and downers being used by so many adults at the time. Clearly, these candies did not last long. If you thought candy cigarettes were dangerous because they encouraged children to smoke, imagine how deadly a candy could be that coaxed children to do drugs. HIPPY SIPPY can now only be found as a nostalgic collectible online. I doubt another candy like this will ever go into development, never mind reach store shelves. Number 4. Haribo's Mao-Am Candies. Now, in all my years on this planet eating candy, stuffing my face with chocolates and doing some pretty heavy snacking, I've never come across Haribo's Mao-Am Candies. These are not sold on any shelf that I've ever seen in the United States, but they are available in the United Kingdom. And in 2009, these candies got a lot of negative attention from the Telegraph, when a furious father went out of his way to complain and condemn the lewd acts supposedly being performed on the labels of Mao-Am sour candies. It does not take a keen eye to see that the lime and the lemon on the packaging are doing some pretty inappropriate acts to each other. I won't get into the graphic details, but let's just say they're not kid-friendly. And while these are not outright banned, parents fear that such horrendous illustrations on candies could provoke children into trying to reenact the acts depicted. I shouldn't have to explain just how harmful that could be for children. I guess there is a reason most countries aren't selling candies with cartoon characters doing naughty things on the wrappers. Number 3. TROLLI Roadkill Gummies. This is a bit of a weird one. If you don't remember the TROLLI Roadkill Gummies produced by Kraft Food Inc., let me remind you. These candies came shaped like animals that had been run over and turned into roadkill. The big fear with these candies was that they would cause children to believe it was okay to harm animals. And as we all know, this is obviously the first step into creating a nation of animal-killing lunatics, which is dangerous to everybody. Of course, that's total hearsay, but either way, this brand of candy turned into roadkill itself in 2005 after massive demonstrations and protests against Kraft prompted them to stop distribution. The only roadkill you'll be eating now is what you find on the side of the road and cook up yourself. Number 2. Tamarind lollipops. Here is the second Mexican candy on the list that's been deleted from American shelves due to excessively high levels of lead. We already know that lead can damage your brain and cause serious problems, including all-out death and severe learning disorders. Lead is not something to be played around with. It is always a surprise when food, especially children's candies, are found to be filled with the stuff. A report in the LA Times confirmed that a 2-year-old child in Orange County was found to have incredibly elevated levels of lead in their bloodstream after eating these lollipops. Just the wrappers themselves were discovered to have incredibly high levels of lead. This is insane considering children are likely to lick or chew the wrapper, not just the candy. It's a good thing these Mexican candies finally got embargoed in 2001. Number 1. Lollipipe. What happens when an adult novelty toy ends up as children's candy? The answer is parental outrage. The candy known as Lollipipe came under serious fire and ended up being banned in a variety of stores across the United States back in the early 2010s. And it's not hard to see why. The candy is literally an edible pipe. You can smoke anything out of it, and I mean anything. Obviously, the last thing parents want is their child buying a piece of candy and then ending up dead because they decided to emulate whatever they saw on TV and smoking something toxic out of the cupboard using their candy paraphernalia. While the chances of that extreme scenario happening may be slim, there's no doubt that children should not have access to pipes. They should especially not have access to pipes made out of candy. This is probably the one ban on the list that makes the most sense. That said, if you're an adult, you can still find delicious candy pipes for sale on the internet. Despite the dangers of these candies, which one would you be the most inclined to try yourselves? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching this episode of American Eye. Did you like the video? Tell us what you think in the comments below, and be sure to like, follow, and subscribe.